Management should ensure that human factors engineering principles are known and utilized, and that existing specifications for equipment and workspace design are identified and met. Resource or acquisition management is a factor in a mishap if resource management and or acquisition process or policies directly or indirectly influence system safety and results in poor error management or creates an unsafe situation. Organizational climate refers to a broad class of organizational variables that influence worker performance. It can be defined as the situational consistencies in the organizational treatment of individuals. In general, organizational climate is the prevailing atmosphere or environment within the organization. Within the present classification system, climate is broken down into three categories, that is structure, policies and culture. The term structures refers to the formal component of the organization. The form and shape of an organization are reflected in the chain of command, delegation of authority and responsibility, communication channels and formal accountability for actions. Organizations with maladaptive structures, that is, those that do not optimally match to their operational environment or are willing to change, will be more prone to mishaps. Policies refer to a course of or method of action that guides present and future decisions. Policies may refer to hiring and firing, promotion, retention, rises, sick leave, drugs and alcohol, overtime, accident investigations, use of safety equipment, etc. when these policies are ill-defined. Adversarial or conflicting safety may be reduced. Finally, culture refers to the unspoken of or unofficial rules, values, attitudes, beliefs and customs of an organization. The way things really get down around here. Other issues related to culture include organizational justice, psychological contracts, organizational citizenship behavior and union or management relations. All these issues affect attitudes about safety and the value of safe working environment. Organizational climate is a factor in a mishap if organizational variable including environment, structure, policies and culture influence individual and results in human error or an unsafe situation. Next is organizational processes. This category refers to the formal process by which things get done in an organization. It is subdivided into three broad categories: operational, procedural and oversight. The term operations refers to the characteristics or conditions of work that have been established by management. These characteristics include operational tempo, time pressures, production quota, incentive systems and schedules. When set up inappropriately, these working conditions can be detrimental to safety. Procedures are the official or formal procedures as to how the job is to be done. Examples include performance standards, objectives, documentation and instructions about procedures. All of these if inadequate, can negatively impact employee supervision, performance and safety. Finally, oversight refers to monitoring and checking the resources, climate and process to ensure a safe and productive environment. Issue here relates to organizational safety, risk management and the establishment of use of safety programs. Organizational process is a factor in a mishap if organizational variables including environment, structure, policies and culture influence individual actions and results in human error or an unsafe situation. Organizational process is a factor in a mishap if organizational processes such as operations, procedures, operational risk management and oversight negatively influence individual, supervisory and or organizational performance and results in unrecognized hazards and or uncontrolled risk and leads to human error or an unsafe situation. Social influences or creativity have received a huge amount of attention in the scholarly research, especially of late. This is because social processes and structures represent such dramatic influences on creativity. Very likely, no creative potentials would be fulfilled without social support of some kind. Moreover, creative efforts often would go unrecognized without social attributions and recognition. Some creative people work for that recognition. Many are influenced along the way by competition and other social situations. Industries and organizations attempting to stay competitive, diversify, and innovate look to situational influences in order to ensure that the creativity of their employee is supported. For those reasons, the second part of this examines the organizations, teams, and the like. Yet, social influence is a broad concept and covers more than the organizational issues. Many influences on development and growth, for example, including those presented by parents and teachers, reflect social processes. In that light, this chapter presents one perspective on social process with complementary perspectives given in covering the development, cultural, and historical perspectives. The various social perspectives are quite practical. Indeed, the developmental, educational, and social or organizational research demonstrates very well that creativity is a practical concern and not just an academic topic of study. This practicality will be particularly obvious in the discussion of organizational theories, for these tie innovation and productivity to different aspects of the creative process. Late in this additional practice study, the discussion of organizational theories for implications are explored. Some may operate on the most general level, namely within society at large. The effects are apparent in indicators of aggregate creativity. The social perspective has spawned various focus theories, including the attributional theory of creativity, a theory of creative class, and the communitarian theory. Each is described after we address the general question, how do social factors influence creativity? The discussion then shifts to questions about organization and pinpoints how teams, brainstorming, and other organizational arrangements can influence both creativity and innovation. At the end, we step back further to a macro social level and examine society at a large. It may be that cities in the United States and even countries around the world differ in creative talents. Why is that, and what determines it? In the conclusion, we address the question, can anything be done to direct social influences toward the fulfillment of creative potential? The homology assumption is that it simply refers to whether there is a concordance between the behavior of two offenders and their subsequent background characteristics. It could be argued that this is also a form of consistency, that is, consistency between the behaviors and backgrounds of different criminals, as stated by Macros and Allison. Offender profiling involves the process of predicting characteristics of an offender based on information available at the crime scene. Decisions about the likely socio-demographic characteristics of that person are made on the basis of behavior. If it is possible to infer something about the person from what happened at the crime, then any two persons who commit a particular type of crime in roughly the same way should be rather similar to each other. As a consequence, offender profiling, its confessional form, is a non-conditional linear process. If followed by, then rules were included to accommodate for individual peculiarities. Situational influence or non-deterministic relations, the resulting policies would contain either or predictions. To give an example, if excessive violence in cases of sexual assault could be associated with antisocial personality disorder or intoxication of the offender, the profile for a given case where increased levels of violence are present could predict either an antisocial perpetrator or a person with proneness to substance abuse or a combination of those two. The homogeny assumption as it stands is not unique to the profiling approach known as investigative psychology. All inductive trait methods of profiling rely on concordance between the current offender and those characteristics of past offenders. With respect to the assumptions that underlie offender profiling, this means that the degree of similarity in the offense behavior of any two perpetrators from a given category of crime will match the degree of similarity in their characteristics. In other words, there is an assumed sameness in the similarity relation between the domains of crime scene sections and demographic features. The more similar two offenders are, the higher the resemblance in their crimes will be. This proposition extends beyond the degree of similarity between behaviorally similar offenders. The assumption holds not only that offenders who are behaviorally similar, demographically similar, but also the offenders who behave similarly will be demographically similar to future offenders who exhibit the same behavior. Otherwise, the homology assumption would be only true of one group at one time regarding the theory. Offenders who behave similarly will be demographically similar to future offenders who exhibit the same behavior. Otherwise, the homology assumption would only be true of one group at one time, rendering the theory redundant.